Well, uh, today's lecture is devoted to understanding urban resilience and its environmental and social aspects. The lecture is prepared for lecture series Urban Resilience Concepts and Challenges for Sustainable Planning Strategies. Uh, well, the epigraph of our lecture is uh, are the words or quote of George the Sixth. It's a British king, king of the United Kingdom, and he said, "It is not the walls that make the city, but the people who live within them. The walls of London may be battered, but the spirit of the Londoner stands resolute and undismayed." Well, now this lecture series is designed for students who are interested in the aspects of urban resilience concepts and also we should speak about owners and operators of critical infrastructure, communities, regions, uh, and how can we prepare to respond and recover from the full range of threats they face. More than half of the world's population now lives in urban areas, and this trend is only accelerating. As cities continue to grow, so do the challenges they face, from climate change and natural disasters to social inequalities and economic uncertainties. The concept of urban resilience is no longer a choice, it's a necessity. Our ability to adopt, withstand, and thrive in the face of these challenges will determine the future of our cities and the quality of life for millions. Urban resilience is not just about bouncing back, it's about bouncing forward, building cities that are not only prepared for shocks and stresses, but also actively creating a better, more sustainable, and equitable urban future. Well, you probably know something about sustainability concept. Uh, these two concepts, sustainability and resilience, are key concepts in urban research, each addressing distinct aspects of urban development and management. Uh, uh, can anybody answer to me what do you know about sustainability? Sustainable development goals, please.
It's like ecological.
Well, ecological approach, maybe, yeah.
Environmental care.
Environmental care, yes. Uh, what's the meaning of the word sustain? Sustain. It's kind of stability, yeah? It's kind of balance. What essences should be balanced in the city? What is your opinion? Well, can you give me an example of balance? What does it mean, balance?
I understand the meaning of the word, but I can't explain.
Well, when you go to the market and want to buy strawberries, uh, you can see an equipment like a scale. Yeah, do you know what does it mean, scale? You put
Yes,
the strawberries on one uh, plate and iron uh, of 1 kilogram on another, and then you must to make a balance of the scale. Yeah. Well, this is similar uh, question is making sustainability or a balance between social, economic, and environmental factors uh, to ensure the long-term well-being of a city and its inhabitants. So, in this case, we are speaking about balance between social, economic, and environmental factors. Well, economic factors, it's of course mm, some corporations, enterprises, plants, businesses who wants to make money. Yeah. Social uh, uh, social factors means society, population, people who live in the city and wants to mm, live in a good environment, uh, in health environment, and have enough money for their well-being. Yeah. And the last one, environmental issues. That means uh, clean atmosphere, uh, the water of good quality, and the healthy environment for all people, all children, all adults who live in a city. Yeah. Well, the concept of sustainability is emphasized meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Sustainable urban development seeks to minimize negative impacts on the environment, promote equitable economic growth, and enhance the quality of life for all residents. It involves practices such as resource conservation, renewable energy use, waste reduction, green infrastructure, social inclusion, and so on. The goal is to create a city that can thrive economically, socially, and environmentally over time. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the, here you can see the sustainability concept timeline. Uh, it was more than 50 years ago in 1972. Mm, Scientists make new definitions, set restrictions on ecological systems, carrying out functions such as absorbing and recycling of waste, of anthropogenic activities with the uh, concomitant problems of improving social, educational, health, and employment. Uh, in 1978, um, um, the idea of sustainable development came to light with the publication of Our Common Future, which firmly established sustainable development as critical component of international development. Uh, Also, it was a so-called Brundtland report that defined sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Because inequalities that had been anomalies were increasing within and among nations, increasing poverty, especially in developing countries, the concept of development is now preferred instead of growth. Growth is believed to reflect only quantitative aspect of countries without considering other qualitative items such as education, health, and equality. In 2019, it was defined as sustainable development was defined as satisfying the needs of current and future generations, depending on appropriate circumstances of human, natural, and economic capital to provide for human welfare. The concept of sustainable development has become a widely recognized goal for human society in 21st century. Now the idea has been extended. It has fast-rate economic and social complexity. The evolution of financial techniques in many countries has proven that fast financial growth precipitated critical issues from the viewpoint of sustainable development, consisting of social, economic, and environmental sustainability. Uh, However, many scientists uh, are speaking in their books about the myth of sustainability. Here you can see a cover of Melissa's Chaker book, The Sustainability Myth, Environmental Gentrification and the Policy of Justice. She told that she found that the most part environmental improvements were coupled with the high-end real estate development or real estate with high prices. for wealthy people. From parks to greenways to green roofs to the cleanup of contaminated properties to small-scale manufacturing, eco-friendly initiatives are combined in an influx of luxury housing and affluent residents. In some cases, communities that had fought for environmental improvements for years finally won some of their battles, only to find that they could not longer afford to live in their neighborhoods. So, uh, environmental improvements are only for rich people, and poor people must live in bad environmental, in contaminated areas. So, it's one of the examples of inequality. Uh, Another Argentinian scientist, uh, Gamband, I have not find his name on the net. He wrote the book The Myth of Sustainable Development, and in this book he is spoken about he is speaking about the truth uh, that nobody wants to speaking about. This book is an alert about false belief that sustainable development will solve all ecological problems in Earth caused by humankind. We are dangerously close to an ecological and environmental planetary crisis. But the problems will not be solved by sustainable development, and the causes go much further and are much more difficult to reverse. This book aims to demystify a solution that powerful interests have promised as true and final, with squandering huge amounts of money. Mm, And now we should go about criticism of the human of sustainable development. Um, here you can see some incorrectness of the term. While sustainable means stable, but development means something that is increasing. So um, two parts of this uh, term, stability and movement, uh, it is impossible to uh, go forward and stay in one place. Another critical issue is the narrowness of the term, and that the provocative tendency to confine global problems to the environmental context. Many scholars, politicians, social activists, and uh, industrialists believe that environmental protection issues cover the entire sustainability development strategy. However, the question is not so clear. The answers should be complex and complicated. Um, the third issue, the absence of single concept of sustainable development, with multiple concept definitions causing considerable implementation difficulties. different scientists, different professionals give their own understanding of the concepts. In different documents and different countries adopt the principles of sustainable development in different ways. So the principles of sustainable development is cannot be standardized for every country, because if you can introduce sustainable energy consumption in Europe, for example, in rich countries, in countries of global south, in poor countries, these principles cannot be introduced in the everyday life because they have not enough financial resources to the implementation of these principles. The selectivity of the concept of sustainable development, its original elitism and imperialist character. This is an option that the implementation of the concept of sustainable development can only bring benefits to a certain part of humanity rather than to all people. It is an example of really huge differences between countries, between countries, the United States, the European Union, and rich countries on the one hand, and another on the another pole of this discourse is poor countries. The next issue is controversial character of several methods used by the concept of sustainable development. The extrapolar modeling used as a part of concept is not final verdict. We must understand that the predictions made based on it will materialize unless humanity, all other things being equal, changes its resource consumption policy. It is necessary corrections are introduced, the predicted collapse can be avoided. And the diversity in understanding the goals of sustainable development, naturally arising from the different worldviews of the participants implementing a new civilization model, and countries and people representing cultural, social, and political diversity. With DOPT, the concept goals are aimed at creating a just and balanced world design. Nevertheless, we must not forget that different countries, scholars, and politicians interpret justice and balance differently. The very question of humanities and individual nations' readiness for global integration, which will require a major transformation of their political and economic systems, is quite controversial. It has historical character and concerns the actual basis of civilizational and evolutionary maturity of modern Homo sapiens. It encompasses cultural issues, man's moral, ethical self-identification, reasonableness, and responsibility. Well, the theory of urban resilience, there is strong agreement among policymakers, practitioners, and academic researchers that the concept of resilience must play a major role in assessing the extent to which various entities, critical infrastructure owners and operators, communities, regions, and nations are prepared to respond to and recover from the full range of threats they face. Uh, Here we can see several approaches to the concept. First of all, philosophy. Another approach, the management, and the next issue is scientific approach to the problem of resilience. Mhm. Well, philosophers now are speaking about some controversial issues of all this concept of ecological green turn and so on. Well, let me find this quote. Mhm. So a new belief system is emerging, growing stronger and gaining influence right before our eyes. This is the belief of secular, well-educated modern individuals, all progressive and well-intentioned people. Within this belief system, there exists a doctrine of sanctity and reverence of the scared, viewing nature as a living organism, the idea that everything is filled with gods. It has its own spiritual leaders, intellectuals, and eco-conscious activists, and it embraces a concept of eternity. This concept of eternity means the understanding of natural cycles and the eternal return of life. This belief system practices sacrifice or demanding that we sacrifice our needs, habits, goals, our current living standards, modern politics, economy, and even our treatment of the environment. Ultimately, it offers salvation akin to any established region, providing redemption from wrongdoings and eternal salvation. This belief system is very beautiful, yet it harbors profound contradictions and logical inconsistencies. What are these contradictions? How will this belief system achieve dominance? How should it be approached? What behavioral patterns are necessary to engage with it efficiently? So, this ecology or sustainability like religion means that people must make their needs smaller and smaller, and in some issues that one countries say to another that you must make this all these ecological improvements, standards, and change your and believe that we should everyone should protect nature, and all these activists you can see that we should reduce population of our planet and so on. So in my opinion, this some of these issues is very contradictive. Well, resilience in urban research refers to a city's ability to prepare for, respond to, and recover from, and adapt to various shocks and stresses such as natural disasters, economic downturns, or social disruptions. Resilient cities are better equipped to withstand and recover from adverse events while maintaining essential functions and minimizing disruptions to residents' lives. This concept emphasizes building flexible systems, diverse infrastructure, and effective governance mechanisms that can absorb and bounce back from shocks. Resilience also involves community engagement, risk reduction, emergency preparedness, and adaptive strategies. The focus is on ensuring that a city can effectively manage and navigate through challenges while preserving its essential functions and quality of life. In summary, while sustainability emphasizes long-term equilibrium and balanced development, resilience focuses on a city's capacity to withstand and recover from shocks and disturbances. Both concepts are vital for creating cities that can thrive and endure in the face of the complex challenges and uncertainties. Here you can see the graph that show the trend of publications of urban studies in Web of Science database. It's a timeline from 1975 to 2021. The blue line is number of publications on sustainability, and the green one it's resilience concept. Let me give you some examples of resilience definitions. There are few approaches to the resilience understanding. Managers or city planners and scientists are speaking about after event components. So all these definitions emphasize that resilience is capacity of a system to absorb disturbance, undergo change, and retain essentially the same function, structure, identity, and feedbacks. Process linking a set of adaptive capacities to a positive trajectory of functioning and adoption after a disturbance. Capacity of a system to survive, adopt, and grow in the face of change and uncertainty. Capability of a system to maintain its functions and structure in the face of internal and external change and to degrade gracefully when it must. The ability of systems to absorb changes and still persist. Another group of definitions containing both before and after event components. These definitions marked in yellow, with yellow, you can read them all. For example, the resilience is ability to adapt to changing conditions and withstand and rapidly recover from disruptions due to emergencies. Its ability of system, infrastructure, government, businesses, communities, and individuals to resist, tolerate, absorb, recover from, prepare for, or adopt to an adverse occurrence that causes harm, destruction, or loss. Resilience also is ability to minimize the cost of a disaster, to return to a state as good as or better than the status quo and to do so in the shortest feasible time. Resilience is used to mean the ability to withstand a hazard without suffering much harm. Resilience will include resistance, but will also include the ability to recover from suffering harm from a hazard. We see resilience as an aggregate result of achieving specific objectives in regard to critical systems and their key functions following a set of principles that can guide the application of practical ways and means across the full spectrum of homeland security missions. So finally, its ability to adjust to normal or anticipated stresses and strains, to adapt to sudden shocks and extraordinary demands. Some definitions of resilience are concerning the questions of infrastructure. It's so-called infrastructure resilience, or what in some circles is referred to as organizational resilience, is important both in its own right and because it contributes to the resilience of other objects of analysis such as communities and regions. To be resilient, communities rely on services and employment provided by organizations to enable them to plan for, respond to, and recover from emergencies and crises. However, organizational and community resilience are two sides of the same coin. If organizations are not prepared to respond to emergencies and crises, communities too are not prepared. The Quadrennial Homeland Security Review offers the Homeland Security Enterprise a strategic framework for understanding protection and resilience. This review describes protection efforts as being focused on stopping an attack or disruption from occurring, while resilience efforts are centered on minimizing the consequences of a disaster. So the conception of protection and resilience are very close. Resilience also is defined as ability to minimize the cost of disaster to return to a state as good as or better than the status quo and to do so in the shortest feasible time. Here you can see components of resilience and the timing of an adverse event. First of all, the state of equilibrium is breaking by some catastrophic event. On this phase, system should resist, absorb, and mitigate the influence of the some power, some catastrophe, or some event. Then the system, the city system should respond, adopt from the event, and recover from the consequences. And the last part of resilience conception is making this system to stay in a previous or a new equilibrium. Here you can see the community or regional resilience framework from the book of Carlson et al. And here you can see this book and understand that they propose to assess economic, civil society, critical infrastructure, supply chain, and governance to understand the resilience of city environment. Finally, Carlson with his co-authors, with his colleagues, gives his understanding of resilience. The main part of resilience is critical infrastructure resilience. Also, it should be mentioned the supply chain, economic, governance, and civil society components that in complex can make a resilient city and can help to make sustainable future. You can see another opinions and components of resilience. Here you can see the sources of the picture. Uh, Infrastructure and natural resources, governance, people and systems, operations and management. So the complex assessment and understanding of how the city is operating can help us to understand the concept of resilience. Another options, so economic, social, institutional, and environment issues as part of resilient concepts. Diverse industries, innovations, workforce skills, infrastructure support, and so on. One interesting concept of planetary boundaries is worked out by Johan Rockström. This concept give some boundaries. Its concept presents a set of 9 planetary boundaries within which humanity can continue to develop and thrive for generations to come. The scientists proposed quantitative planetary boundaries within which humanity can continue to develop and thrive for generations to come. Crossing these boundaries increases the risk of generating a large-scale, abrupt, or irreversible environmental changes. Well, and let's move to the main components of urban resilience. First of all, it is infrastructure. Resilient cities invest a robust and adaptive in robust and adaptive infrastructure systems, including transportation, energy, and water system to withstand shocks and stressors. Next issue is community engagement. The community engagement means asking people who live in the community how they want to develop their area. Here is an example of Detroit. It's an issue of Detroit Parks public input. Public input. Public input was measured on a 1 to 3 scale based on the dot map exercise from public meetings. Residents were asked to prioritize up to 3 parks in their city council district. If a park receives no dots, it was scored with 0, 1 dot with N1, 2 dots with 2, and 3 or more dots with N3. These rankings were then converted in 1 to 5 scale. So here is an example of feedback from population, from residents, how to make some decisions. Biodiversity and green spaces. Cities that promote biodiversity and provide accessible green spaces contribute to enhanced urban resilience, improving air quality, reducing flooding risk, and supporting mental well-being. Air quality. Well, here you can see an example. Oh, yes. Швидкий перехід до слайда. Green spaces. Mhm. Well, green spaces. Here you can see an example of green spaces assessment in the city of Vancouver City. Mm. It is so-called understanding how green is your city. The maps compare green spaces around the world. They create web resource 3pedia. And you can see the map. Sripedia. It's maybe kind of Wikipedia. Here is their logotype, Sripedia. And they show on a map different cities, city of Boston, Buenos Aires, beautiful maps of the cities, and they compare the uh, area of green spaces and population density. We can also add this once more. Add this picture to our presentation. Well, another example is city of Odessa. Here is initiative you can find on Green City Omer Gov.ua. The map is showing green areas of the city of Odessa, and you can click the point and see the information about tree, and any user can also upload a photo of a particular tree, specify its address and information about its condition through a personal account. Well, one more issue is land plots and the register of green zones. It is the city of Kiev, and communal enterprise Kiev Zelenbud show the result of their or cadastre of the green areas in Kiev and near it in this map. You also can follow the link. Here you can see one more example of identification of social function types of urban green spaces. Urban green spaces. It is a publication of Chinese colleagues, and you can see the timeline of the methodological framework. So as the input, they use road network, satellite images, and point of interest. Then they extract useful information, road buffer regions, parcels, vegetation paths, categories and geopositions, and name of every point of interest. Then they create green buffers, calculate near convex hull analysis, and finally they make a classification of these 8 all the green spaces they classificate in 8 classes: residential green space, green buffer, subsidiary green space, thematical parks, public parks, uh, uh, residential green space, etc. Finally, you can see a map of Beijing that classify every green space of all these different classes. Uh, mhm. Another issue is integrated planning. So we should put the quick link to slide number mhm. So we can integrated planning. Integrated planning integrating multiple disciplines such as planning, sorry, urban planning, engineering, and environmental science helps establish cohesive strategies for building resilience. Well, let's see the social aspects of urban resilience. First issue is income inequality. You can see in the map the mean wealth in different countries. So, first of all, rich communities have much more abilities to make their spaces resilient. The empowerment of communities develop as community driven initiatives and people participation. Uh, the number of efforts should be made towards equity and social justice rise in the communities, because this income inequality you can see not only between countries but also between uh, regions of a city. For example, for example, well, let's move on. So equity and social justice rise are pivotal forces striving to address disparities and forge a more inclusive urban resilience. Let's find some examples on the net. So we can find income inequity in city on a map. You can find a huge amount of mapping incomes, for example, on ArcGIS Story Maps resource. Well, income in disparities are real and getting more extreme. They have presented maps of income distributing in the United States cities reveals subtleties and surprises. It's a map of Chicago. Census tract shows households grouped into 4 categories. In this highlighted tracts, the predominant or most common households is income less than $25,000 per year. And in these tracts, the predominant income breaks violet from 25 to 50,000 and more than 50,000 is blue. And more 100 is light blue color. Symbol size represent the total number of households with each census tract. Larger symbols represent tracts with more households. Symbol brightness represents the strength of predominance. Dimmer symbols mean the households in other income categories are nearly as numerous as the predominant income category. So another map represents wealth and poverty concentrations. The third map shows income diversity. That is the likelihood that households in a given area belong to different income brackets. Purple areas are less income diverse, meaning the most households in the tract fall into a single income bracket. On the other hand, green tracts have greater income diversity, meaning they contain a greater mix of wealthy and less wealthy households. Another example, LA, Los Angeles. In many ways, Los Angeles is a bellwether for the nation, while people of color will make up the majority of the United States population by 2044. Los Angeles crossed that threshold in 1980s. Economic opportunity is spread unevenly across a population and its geography. Here you can see income for categories inside LA. The New York City here they represent wealthiest and poorest categories inside the New York City. Я уже через півгодинки закінчу. You can see areas of the heart of Manhattan and Bronx and Eastern Brooklyn. So you can see this story map yourself. And here we can represent an example of the New York City income inequalities. Well, another issue is mapping Another issue is social conflicts, violence, and marginalized communities. In the picture, you can see it's not a new Leon Tower and not a fashionable installation. It's Mariupol, destroyed by Russians. Elevator shaft, all that is left of house in which happy people once lived. And then Putin and his second army burst into their lives. So, number of conflicts and how community can be resilient against this conflict. And we should speaking about community vulnerability and urban mitigation and adoption strategies. Another beautiful examples is mapping age of the world buildings that should help us to understand issues of infrastructure resilience. Here you can see we can follow the link and see this map animation of Kiev building age. So the very old buildings are most beautiful. However, these buildings can be weak, and we should make big funding for their recovering from every problem with these buildings. Also, the very similar is Amsterdam. New York, age of buildings, and so on. Here you can see also examples of building age in Spanish cities. And a very interesting example is Milwaukee. Buildings typology. You can find this typology with also on interactive web page. Here you can see different types of buildings that have been built in Milwaukee City in the United States, and blue means cottages and old style duplexes. And then when you are scrolling the page, you can see another buildings styles. It's also an age of buildings, and the connected with this age, the type of building. So it's also kind of understanding different types of real estate and how should we take care of it to make our city much more resilient. What are the benefits of building urban resilience? First of all, it's improved disaster preparedness. Here in the slide, you can see the information about sea level rise and how urban communities, Norfolk, also in the United States, how can they understand the prognosis of sea level rise and how community should be aware of this problem. Social cohesion and equity. Building urban resilience fosters social cohesion. Sorry. Strengthens communities and reduces inequality by ensuring equitable access to essential services and resources. And finally, economic stability. Resilient cities attract investment. Protect local economies, and create sustainable job opportunities by mitigating risks and adapting to changing circumstances. There are many case studies of Copenhagen, Tokyo, Medellin in Colombia. Copenhagen's commitment to cycling infrastructure and sustainable urban planning has made it global leader in promoting eco-friendly transportation and reducing car emissions. Tokyo, Japan has implemented innovative green space projects such as rooftop gardens and urban forests to enhance biodiversity, reduce the urban heat islands effect, and improve air quality. Medellin, Colombia, they invest in cable car transit system and inclusive urban planning that is transformed marginalized communities, empowering accessibility, reducing inequality, and promotion social integration. Well,